When I turned 65, I threw a party for the family. No one came. I'll never forget staring at that empty dining room, the table set for 12, the candles burning down to nothing, the laughter I'd imagined echoing only in my mind. I'd spent 3 days preparing, believing that love and effort still mattered in this family. I was wrong. That same day, my daughter-in-law would teach me a lesson I never asked for. That sometimes, the people you've loved the longest can become strangers overnight. And sometimes, absence isn't an accident. It's a message. But before I share what happened next, let me say this. I'm Grandma Alice, and this is my story, one of many I've lived through and learned from. If you're here because you believe in second chances, poetic justice, and the quiet strength of women who've been underestimated, then you're in the right place. Please, subscribe to Revenge with Alice and help me reach 1,000 subscribers before next week. Your support means the world to this old heart. Now, let me tell you how it all began. The invitations went out 6 weeks before my birthday. I handwrote each one on cream-colored cardstock I'd found at the craft store, the kind with delicate floral borders that reminded me of my mother's stationery. I wrote carefully, my arthritic fingers gripping the pen tighter than they should have, forming each letter with the kind of care that only lonely people understand. You are invited to celebrate Alice Margaret Holloway's 65th birthday. Saturday, October 14th, 2 p.m. Please come, it would mean the world to me. I mailed them with stamps I'd saved from Christmas. My son, Daniel, received his first. Then his wife, Vanessa. Then my 2 grandchildren, Emma and Noah, though I knew they wouldn't open their own mail. They were only 10 and 7. I sent invitations to my sister, my nephew, 3 cousins, and 2 old friends from church. 12 people. 12 chances to not spend my birthday alone. The responses came slowly. Daniel texted, "Sounds good, Mom. We'll be there." My sister called and said she wouldn't miss it for the world. The cousins sent thumbs-up emojis. My church friends said they'd bring a casserole. By mid-September, I had 11 confirmed guests. Only Vanessa never responded, but I told myself that was fine. She was busy. She had the kids. She'd come with Daniel. She always did. I started baking on Thursday. 3 pies, apple, pecan, and lemon meringue, because I couldn't decide which one people would like best, so I made them all. I roasted a turkey on Friday, the kind with herb butter tucked under the skin, the way my mother taught me 60 years ago. I made mashed potatoes from scratch, green bean casserole with the crispy onions on top, homemade rolls that rose in the warmth of my kitchen like little promises of comfort. I set the table with my mother's linen tablecloth, the one with the tiny embroidered roses along the hem, the one I only used for special occasions. Saturday morning, I woke at dawn. I couldn't sleep, anticipation hummed through my chest like electricity. I showered, blow-dried my hair, and put on the navy dress I'd bought specifically for this day. It had pearl buttons down the front and a collar that made me feel dignified, like someone worth celebrating. I applied lipstick, a soft coral shade that didn't make me look like I was trying too hard, and clipped on the earrings Daniel had given me for Mother's Day 5 years ago, back when we still talked every week. I placed fresh flowers in every room. Sunflowers in the entryway. White roses on the dining table. Daisies in the bathroom, because I wanted every corner of my home to feel alive, welcoming, full of the warmth I'd been missing for months. By 1 o'clock, everything was ready. The food was hot, the house smelled like heaven, and I had changed the music 3 times, settling finally on soft jazz, the kind that filled silence without demanding attention. I stood in the hallway mirror, smoothing my dress, reminding myself that today mattered. That I mattered. 2 o'clock came. No one. I told myself they were running late. Traffic, maybe. Daniel always ran late. I sat on the couch near the window, hands folded in my lap, watching the driveway like a child waiting for Santa Claus. Every car that passed sent a jolt of hope through me, only to fade into disappointment as they continued down the street. 2:30. Still no one. I checked my phone. No messages. No missed calls. Nothing. 3 o'clock. The turkey was drying out. The rolls had gone cold. I reheated the mashed potatoes twice, as if warmth could summon people who'd already decided not to come. By 4 o'clock, the candles had burned halfway down, wax pooling in their silver holders. I walked to the dining room and stood at the head of the table, staring at 12 empty chairs. 12 place settings. 12 cloth napkins folded into neat triangles. 12 glasses filled with ice water that had long since lost its chill. I felt something crack inside me then, not loudly, not dramatically, but quietly, like ice splitting beneath weight it was never meant to carry. I sat down. Alone. At the head of my own birthday table. I cut myself a slice of turkey. Spooned mashed potatoes onto my plate. Took a bite of green beans that tasted like ashes in my mouth. I tried to cry, but the tears wouldn't come. Maybe I'd used them all up over the years, on other disappointments, other silences, other moments when I realized I loved people more than they loved me. By 6 o'clock, I gave up. I blew out the candles, covered the food, and sat in the growing darkness of my living room, the house too quiet, too still, too full of everything I'd hoped for and nothing I'd received. I didn't understand. Had I forgotten to confirm? Had I gotten the date wrong? I checked the invitations I'd kept copies of. October 14th. Today. I checked my phone again, still nothing. No apologies. No explanations. Just silence. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying every conversation from the past month, searching for clues I'd missed. Had I offended someone? Had I been too pushy? Too needy? I'd spent 65 years trying to be the kind of mother, sister, and friend people wanted around, and somehow, I'd still ended up alone on the one day I'd asked them to show up. Sunday morning, I woke to my phone buzzing. A notification. Facebook. My hands trembled as I unlocked the screen, hoping for a message, maybe an apology, maybe an explanation. Instead, I saw a photo. Daniel, Vanessa, Emma, Noah, my sister, my nephew, my cousins, my church friends, all of them, sitting around a long table at Romano's Italian restaurant, plates of pasta and glasses of wine, everyone smiling, laughing, celebrating. The caption, written by Vanessa, read, "Sometimes you have to leave toxic people behind, even family. Celebrating life with the people who matter. Hashtag self-care, hashtag healthy boundaries, hashtag choosing peace." The room tilted. My chest tightened. I scrolled through the comments, hearts, applause emojis, supportive messages from strangers who had no idea what they were endorsing. I clicked on the timestamp. Saturday, October 14th, 7 p.m. They hadn't forgotten. They hadn't been late. They'd chosen to go somewhere else. Together. Without me. And Vanessa, my daughter-in-law, the woman I'd welcomed into our family with open arms, the woman I'd babysat for, cooked for, defended when Daniel complained, she'd orchestrated it. She'd gathered everyone I loved and celebrated the fact that I wasn't there. I sat on the edge of my bed, phone trembling in my hands, staring at that photo until my vision blurred. That's when I realized, this wasn't an accident. This was a message. And the woman who sent it had just declared war. But what I didn't know yet was that she'd already won my son's silence long before she stole my family. I didn't call. I didn't text. I didn't demand explanations or beg for apologies. I simply sat with that photo burned into my mind, understanding for the first time that silence can be a weapon sharper than any words. For 3 days, I waited, not for them to reach out, but for myself to decide who I was going to become in the face of this betrayal. Because that's what it was. Not a misunderstanding. Not a miscommunication. Betrayal, calculated and cold, wrapped in a smiling family photo and served to me like poison in a crystal glass. Monday morning, my sister finally called. I almost didn't answer. Part of me wanted to let her feel the same silence I'd endured, but curiosity won. I needed to understand. "Alice," she said, her voice tight with something I couldn't quite name. "Guilt maybe? Or discomfort?" I need to explain about Saturday. I said nothing. Let the silence stretch between us like a chasm. She cleared her throat. Vanessa called me 2 weeks ago. She said you'd been struggling. That you'd been saying some concerning things to the grandchildren. She was worried about your mental state, said Daniel was worried too. She thought maybe a big party would be too much pressure, that you needed space instead. My hands went cold. What things, exactly, did she say I told the grandchildren? The pause. Long enough for me to hear her doubt creeping in. She said you'd been telling Emma that her mother didn't love her. That you'd been trying to turn the kids against Vanessa, saying inappropriate things about their parents' marriage. Alice, she made it sound like you were, I don't know, having some kind of breakdown. The words hit me like stones. Each one carefully chosen, perfectly placed to build a wall between me and everyone I loved. And you believed her? My voice came out steadier than I felt. You've known me for 65 years, and you believed I would poison my own grandchildren's minds? She was very convincing, my sister whispered. And Daniel didn't defend you, Alice. He just stood there, nodding along. What was I supposed to think? There was the truth beneath the truth. Daniel's silence had given Vanessa's lies credibility. My own son had watched her dismantle my character and said nothing, done nothing, chosen the easy piece of agreement over the hard work of defending his mother. What else did she say? I needed to know the full scope of the damage. My sister's voice cracked. She said you'd become obsessed with controlling their family. That you criticized her parenting constantly. That you told her she wasn't good enough for Daniel. She painted this picture of you as this manipulative woman who couldn't let go, who was trying to run their lives. And then she suggested we all get together, without you, just to have a peaceful celebration for once. She made it sound like we were protecting you from yourself. I closed my eyes. Vanessa had done more than exclude me from a party. She'd systematically rewritten my history, turned my love into obsession, my concern into control, my presence into toxicity. And she'd done it so skillfully that even my own sister had believed her. Did anyone question her? I asked. Did anyone think to call me and ask if any of it was true? Silence. The most damning answer of all. I'm sorry, my sister finally whispered. I should have. We all should have. But she was so detailed, so specific. And Daniel let her, I finished. My son stood by and let his wife destroy me. After I hung up, I sat in my kitchen, the same kitchen where I'd baked 3 pies for ghosts, and felt something shift inside me. Not heartbreak. I'd already broken. This was something harder, something colder. This was clarity. I spent the next 2 days making calls. Quiet ones. Careful ones. I called my nephew, who admitted Vanessa had told him I'd been inappropriate with his children at a family barbecue I hadn't even attended. I called my church friends, who'd heard I was going through something difficult and needed space. I called my cousin, who'd been told I'd said terrible things about Vanessa behind her back. Things I'd never even thought, let alone spoken. Every conversation revealed another lie, another carefully constructed story designed to isolate me. Vanessa hadn't just poisoned one well, she'd poisoned them all. And she'd been doing it for months, maybe years, so gradually that no one noticed the pattern until it was too late. But that's what I couldn't understand. I'd been nothing but kind to her. When she and Daniel first married, I'd welcomed her with open arms. I'd babysat whenever they needed. I'd kept my opinions to myself when I disagreed with their parenting. I'd bitten my tongue 1,000 times to keep the peace. What had I done to deserve this level of calculated cruelty? Thursday afternoon, I got my answer. Emma called me from her friend's phone, a secret call she'd clearly planned carefully. Grandma. Her voice was small, scared. I'm not supposed to talk to you. My heart clenched. Why not, sweetheart? Mom says you're sick. She says you might say mean things and that we need to protect ourselves. But Grandma. She paused, and I heard her crying softly. You didn't forget my birthday last month, Did you? Mom said you did. She said you didn't care about us anymore. I felt rage bloom in my chest, hot and sharp. Emma, I sent you a present. A jewelry box with the ballerina inside, the one you wanted. I mailed it 3 weeks before your birthday. I never got it, she whispered. But Mom got a new jewelry box around that time. She said she bought it for herself, but, Grandma, it had a ballerina inside. The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. Vanessa hadn't just lied about me, she'd stolen from me. She'd intercepted my gifts, my cards, my attempts to reach out, and used their absence as proof of my neglect. She'd created evidence of my failures by erasing my efforts. Emma, listen to me, I said, my voice steady despite the fury coursing through me. I love you. I have always loved you. And I would never, ever abandon you. Do you understand? I know, Grandma, she sobbed. I always knew. But Mom gets so angry when we talk about you. Dad doesn't say anything anymore. He just looks sad and leaves the room. After Emma hung up, I sat with my phone in my hand, staring at the screen until it went dark. I'd spent 3 days trying to understand how my family could abandon me. Now I understood, they hadn't abandoned me. They'd been fed a version of me that didn't exist, a monster crafted from lies and half-truths, and my son, my own flesh and blood, had been too weak or too whipped to fight back. That night, I made a decision. Not in anger, though anger was there. Not in heartbreak, though my heart was thoroughly broken. I made it in the cold, clear space where dignity lives. The place you find when people have taken everything from you except your ability to choose what happens next. I opened my laptop and started researching. Real estate prices in coastal towns. Small apartments near the beach. Places where no one knew my name or my history. Places where I could rebuild without the weight of other people's betrayals pressing down on my shoulders. As I scrolled through listings for homes I could actually afford, my phone buzzed. A text from Daniel. The first direct contact since the party that wasn't. Mom, we need to talk. Can I come over tomorrow? I stared at those words for a long time, feeling nothing and everything at once. He wanted to talk. After the damage was done. After he'd let his wife destroy me without saying a single word in my defense. I typed 3 words and pressed send. It's too late. But I didn't know yet just how right I was, or how much further Vanessa was willing to go to make sure I stayed buried. Daniel showed up anyway. That's the thing about people who've wronged you. They show up when they need something, when their conscience finally starts whispering too loud to ignore. He arrived at my door on Friday evening, looking older than I remembered, his shoulders curved inward like a man carrying weight he couldn't name. I almost didn't let him in. Almost. But some part of me, the part that had rocked him to sleep 37 years ago, the part that had bandaged his scraped knees and celebrated his victories, that part needed to hear what he had to say. Even if I already knew it wouldn't be enough. He stood in my entryway, not quite meeting my eyes, his hands shoved deep in his jacket pockets. The same nervous gesture he'd had since childhood when he knew he'd done something wrong. Mom, he started, his voice rough. About the party? Don't. I held up one hand, surprised by how steady it was. Don't insult me with half apologies and excuses. I know what happened. I know what she told everyone. What I need to know is why you let her. He flinched like I'd struck him. He should flinch. It's complicated, he mumbled. Complicated. I tasted the word, bitter and insufficient. Your wife spent months, maybe years, systematically destroying my reputation with everyone I love, and you stood by and watched. That's not complicated, Daniel. That's cowardice. His head snapped up, anger flashing across his face. You don't understand what it's like living with her. If I'd defended you, if I'd contradicted her, she would have made my life hell. She would have. She would have what? I stepped closer, my voice dropping to something dangerous. Made you feel small? Isolated? Turned people against you with lies? Tell me, Son, what exactly would she have done to you that she didn't already do to me? He had no answer. Just stood there, jaw working, eyes glistening with tears he didn't deserve to cry. When did it start? I asked, softer now. When did she decide I was the enemy? He sank onto my couch without invitation, head in his hands. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely audible. After Noah was born, you remember how you stayed with us those first 2 weeks? Helping with Emma, cooking meals, doing laundry. I remembered. I'd been honored to help, grateful to be included. Vanessa said you were too involved, that you acted like the children were yours, not hers. She said you undermined her, made her feel incompetent. He looked up at me, pleading. I tried to explain that you were just helping, but she has this way of reframing everything. Suddenly, every kind thing you'd ever done became evidence of you trying to control us. And you believed her? I didn't want to. His voice cracked. But she was so consistent, Mom. Every visit, she'd find something to criticize afterward. You held Noah too long. You corrected Emma's table manners. You rearranged her kitchen. Little things that alone meant nothing, but together. Built a case, I finished. She built a case against me, brick by brick, until you couldn't see me anymore. Just her version of me. He nodded miserably. By the time I realized what was happening, I was in too deep. If I'd admitted she was wrong, I'd have to admit I'd been complicit in hurting you for years. It was easier to just go along. Keep the peace at home. At my expense. At your expense, he whispered. I'm so sorry, Mom. I sat down across from him, studying the man my son had become. Weak where his father had been strong. Conflict avoidant where I'd taught him to stand up for what was right. Somewhere along the way, he'd traded his backbone for domestic tranquility, and I'd paid the price. Emma called me, I said quietly. She told me about the jewelry box. Daniel's face went pale. What? The birthday present I sent her. The one that never arrived. The one Vanessa kept for herself. I watched him carefully. Did you know about that? No. But his eyes darted away. Maybe. I don't know. She gets packages all the time. I don't. He trailed off, the lie hanging between us, transparent and pathetic. What else has she taken from me, Daniel? What else has she stolen and blamed on my neglect? He stood abruptly, pacing my small living room like a caged animal. I came here to apologize. To make things right. Can't we just move past this? Come to dinner next week. Let me prove things can be different. Different how? I stood too, my voice rising. Is Vanessa suddenly going to admit she lied? Are you going to tell the family the truth? Are you going to stand up to your wife and defend your mother? His silence was answer enough. That's what I thought. I walked to the front door, opened it. You came here to ease your conscience, not to make amends. You want me to forgive you so you can go back to your comfortable life without the guilt gnawing at you. But Daniel, some things can't be forgiven with words. They require action, change, courage, things you're not willing to give. Mom, please. Go home to your wife, I said, my voice eerily calm. Go home and tell her you tried. Tell her I'm unreasonable, unforgiving, just as toxic as she's always said. Make yourself feel better with whatever lies you need. But don't come back here expecting me to absolve you of choices you're still making. He stood in the doorway, tears streaming down his face now. I love you, Mom. I know you do. My own eyes burned, but I refused to let him see me cry. But love without action is just a word. And I'm done collecting empty words from people who won't fight for me. He left. Didn't slam the door, didn't argue. Just walked away, shoulders shaking with sobs I couldn't comfort. Part of me wanted to call him back, to hold him like I did when he was small and the world felt too big. But that little boy was gone, replaced by a man who'd chosen his path. And I couldn't save him from consequences he'd earned. That weekend, I put my house on the market. 72 hours later, I had 3 offers. The housing market in our area was hot, and my modest 3-bedroom with the big backyard was exactly what young families wanted. I accepted the highest bid without negotiation, without sentiment. The realtor seemed surprised by how quickly I decided, how little I mourned letting go of the home I'd lived in for 30 years. She didn't understand that the house had stopped being a home the moment I realized no one was coming to my party. It was just walls and memories now, and I was ready to leave both behind. I called my sister to say goodbye. She cried, begged me to reconsider, promised things would get better. I thanked her for the years of sisterhood we'd shared and hung up before she could make promises neither of us believed. I didn't tell Daniel. Didn't give him a forwarding address. I simply hired movers, packed what mattered, and donated the rest. By the end of the month, I was standing in a small apartment 3 hours away, ocean visible from my bedroom window, surrounded by boxes and possibility. The first night in my new home, my phone buzzed. Daniel. Then Vanessa. Then my sister. Messages piling up, voicemails I didn't listen to. They discovered I was gone. I turned my phone off and poured myself a glass of wine. Sat on my tiny balcony watching the sun set over water, feeling something I hadn't felt in years. But this story doesn't end here, my dears. What happened next, how they reacted, what they lost, how life taught them the lessons I couldn't, that's a tale for another day. If you want to hear how karma finally caught up with Vanessa, how Daniel learned what absence truly costs, subscribe to Revenge with Alice. These stories matter. Your support matters. And together, we'll keep sharing the truth that silence can't bury, that dignity isn't given by others, it's claimed by ourselves. 6 months would pass before my phone rang again with a call I'd actually answer. 6 months of building a life they couldn't touch, in a place they couldn't poison. And when that call finally came, desperate, broken, begging, I'd be ready with an answer they never saw coming. But first, I had to learn what freedom tasted like without them.